I apologize if this is a little blurry. I've been blanking with this phone for a little bit now, trying to get everything perfect, and it's just, uh, for a phone that's a year old, it's been really giving me a heck of a hard time. Anyway, this is a learning video. Um, I'm not an attorney, so I don't claim to have any responsibility of this actions. You do as you wish. Alrighty? And see what happens here.
Hey, JC, can we give our friend Jesse James some shout out here?
Absolutely.
I love this. He does this whiteboard thing behind his half his face. I love it. I think it's really
Jesse
great.
is the man.
Yeah, he's really good. So he says, if you allow the government to break the law for an emergency, they will create emergencies to break the law. That's what they call the Hegelian dialectic.
Yeah. So that's follow my man Jesse James at Jesse James 1 on Instagram. JAYMZ.
There it is, right there on the screen. If you're not watching, then just that's what it is. All right. So
I think we're gonna smack out a show one of these days. Me and Jesse.
You and Jesse?
Yeah, we're gonna hit it.
I want to do like a super fast thing here, just to sort of tell people again, go to my Instagram account and keep up, because stuff that I can't catch on the show, stuff that comes by so quickly. So when Uncle Joe gave his speech on the Jabberwocky and all that other stuff, what I did on Instagram is I just made several posts to, highlight my take on it, right? So, and then I put in a couple of JC's posts in there. And here's the thing, there's something that I want to show you guys about this speech. Because what's interesting, JC, was right after this speech, articles kept popping up all over. Biden mandates vaccinations for federal workers and employers with 100 employees or more without exceptions. That was the headline. You guys saw it, right? You saw it everywhere. Without exceptions. No exceptions allowed. And I thought, in my legal brain, first off, I thought, well, they are pretty tyrannical. They're pretty bold these days. But surely they're not that bold yet, because the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the court's application of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 actually requires religious exemptions be a part of this process, unless a very strict burden of proof can be met by the employer. And what we're seeing now, and that's why I said they've been bold, and what you're seeing is a flipping of the burden of proof. Hey, you have to prove to me your religious convictions, when, throughout history, it's been, you have to prove to me that your need overturns my religious convictions.
We're going to take your rights, now prove why we can't.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we're at.
Right, exactly. But it's not supposed to be that way. So I thought I need to really look into that, because first, I didn't watch the speech, but I sort of skimmed over it, and I didn't see anything. So I went to whitehouse.gov, and here is actually the transcripts. You can find the remarks by the president, September 9, 2021, on the what he actually said on TV, or actually what he read, right?
Yeah, what he read.
Somebody wrote this for Joe, and Joe read it, and now you can go online and read it too. And what's interesting is that Joe did not in any time talk about mandating vaccinations without exemptions. He actually said that, and I'll show you right here. This is right from Joe's words. Tonight I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule. Now let's stop there for just a second, JC, because here's the thing. Everybody's saying Biden wrote an EO. Biden did not write an EO. This is going to be rules coming from the Department of Labor. Okay.
Right.
And the rules coming from the Department of Labor, which already have a guideline summary on them, are the same as what Biden says right here. So tonight I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated or show a negative test at least once a week. Why did he say or show a negative test at least once a week? Because what's going to come from the Department of Labor is the guidelines, the rule that says, and you can go to the Department of Labor and see this, that the vaccinations will be mandated and exemptions will be allowed as required by law. Okay? So these exemptions, religious exemptions specifically, are required by the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the way the Supreme Court has required the application of that. And what has to happen is they have to offer a religious exemption. If they do not offer a religious exemption, now this is legally speaking now, I don't need to tell you, I'm sure that I don't think you should have to ask for an exemption to honor something that is your right.
But the disinformation was a bully tactic, basically.
Disinformation is a bully tactic.
So when you dig in it, you find it's about, it basically directs Department of Labor, you say?
The Department of Labor, because those are the ones that, yeah.
And then you've gone there and found what they actually say about the rule they'll be writing.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So this is the source. Go find the source.
The Department of Labor is going to issue a rule that allows for exemptions. And and what you have to understand is the rule according to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, as applied by the Supreme Court, says they have to give you an exemption or your employer must prove that an exemption would be an undue hardship, which at this point is impossible to show that as an undue hardship, because even the president recognizes the alternative of negative testing, right, to mandatory vaccinations.
So even in his words,
or the alternative of a negative testing.
Yeah. The fact that he gave an or basically makes the argument that this is not the least restrictive thing that you can require, that you're requiring.
He also talks about testing, masking, adequate ventilation systems, social distancing, and vaccinations. So it is it ought to be, let me put it this way, JC, it ought to be legally impossible for any business today to say that their employees are not entitled to a religious exemption for the vaccination, because past practice and even the words of the President of the United States imply that masking, testing, all these alternatives to vaccinations not only are available, but equally, if not more, effective.
What's peculiar is the kind of misinformation, the sort of bullying that, because this is the word that is really there is obviously not getting to people. So you have businesses by what the White House, the sort of disinformation and propaganda that's sent out, because people are going to listen to that. They're going to listen to what's reported. They're going to listen to the news. They're not going to go. They're not going to go to whitehouse.gov and read the transcript. Then they're not going to go from there to the Department of Labor and read the actual things. So you have businesses basically denying religious exemptions left and right,
Right.
essentially setting themselves up to be sued. So you almost have, is the white are the Biden administration, are they so stupid and so incompetent, so ham-handed that they're inadvertently setting up all of these businesses for lawsuits that they're likely to lose?
You know, JC, I've thought
It's a
about that.
strange thing.
I thought about it. First off, I don't think they care. Secondly, remember,
certainly not.
the objective is to get everybody to get the jab.
Right. So
right?
people are listening to this and then, freaking out. It's about their job. So
And
in
the
the meantime, regardless of what lawsuits may come,
Mm-hmm.
the people are going ahead and submitting to the jab.
Secondly, right? What is the second objective? The second objective is to shut down the small businesses and consolidate all of the commerce in the large businesses.
Yeah.
Well, the large businesses are not going to be affected by these lawsuits. As a matter of fact, we're watching the large businesses who have lawyers on retainer when firms like Liberty First Legal or Liberty Counsel or Pacific Justice Institute are sending these large firms letters saying, look, you can't do this, they're backing down and offering the exemptions. So it's the small mom and pops who don't have the lawyers on retainer who are listening to the bully mandate coming down from the media, because the media, see, that's the crazy thing, JC. The media immediately started publishing false headlines. Remember, the headlines were Biden will issue a mandate without exemptions. And he never said that. He never even said no exemptions. As a matter of fact, like I pointed out in the speech, he said the exact opposite. So that's the goal, is to bully people who don't know any better, who are like, well, if I have no options, think about this. If they say you have no options, then you might just go ahead and hurry up before you find out that you're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you hurry up before you lose your job, then by the time you find out that you didn't actually have to, you already got it.
Yeah. Well, you never have to, but that you have means to fight it and,
Right.
and grounds to stand on. But then at the same time, here's the Biden administration exempting various federal workers.
Right.
I heard postal workers and congressmen and their staff
actually-
and all sorts of things like that. People don't know what's going on. Do these federal employees have to do it? Don't they? I mean, it's crazy how much misinformation and confusion
Yeah.
this administration is disseminating. It seems like that the core point here is to send out disinformation
Yes.
and confusion.
Yes.
To what end? Number one, mostly to get people just to go
To
ahead
do
and
their
take it.
bidding, whatever their bidding is all about the misinformation, right?
It's crazy.
Do along. Now, here's what's crazy. So you have, and I found this, right? You have Jeff Zeleny here on Twitter says postal workers are not subjected to federal mandate, but fall under the Labor Department rule announced by the president aimed at businesses, right? So we have first, the information are not subject to the federal mandate. Oops, sorry.
Right.
There. Not subject to the federal mandate. But now you have the Postal Service apparently now backtracking. You have Jacob Bogich here. White House official tells me UPS workers are not included in the Biden's vaccination requirement. And now White House officials say they are part of the vaccine mandate. So they're backtracking, right? So there's an update. So first the White House says, no, they're not subject to the mandate. And then now they've backtracked and said the same administration, the same White House is saying, no. Yes, they are.
And part of that is what you pointed out.
And check this out, under the executive
That's
order
what I was about
again.
to say. The part of the problem is what you pointed out. The way his executive order thing went out was to say we're going to direct the Department of Labor to do this. Well, then he puts it in the Department of Labor's hands.
Right.
So then you have, his words saying one thing in a broad sense, which may not necessarily be whatever Department of Labor is doing, and OSHA and whoever falls under that. So again, I guess the Afghanistan withdrawal may have been some indication. Just the way this administration carries out things is so incompetent and full of confusion and disarray that people don't even know what's going on.
Right. Well, here, but you have the people standing up, JC. Check this out. You have New York hospitals have to, quote, pause delivering babies. How does that happen? Whoa, don't come out.
Don't have that baby yet.
After staffers quit
Yeah.
rather than getting vaccinated.
So it's basically saying you can't come here to deliver your baby. You got to
Right.
go somewhere else.
Right. Which is why I am always telling, and that's why I put in this Instagram post, time for these professionals to start their own clinics and hospitals free from medical bullying. Let me just say this little PSA. First off, if a clinic or a medical facility does not take Medicaid or Medicare, you are not subject to federal regulations. So you don't have to do this. You don't have to go through any of the federal mandates if you don't take Medicaid or Medicare. Why don't we just have doctors and nurses and facilities go back to cash payments and go back to actually doing business in a commerce situation instead of a federal dictate or a dictate based on insurance companies?
So here's an example, and Patricia being jerked around in this nonsense. Patricia Ortega says, I was not allowed to work for almost a year because I wouldn't comply with the mask. Then they removed the mandate for masks, called me back. I worked for 2 months. The mandate went back on, and then now I'm not allowed. So
Yeah.
just, it seems to me the characteristic of this administration at this time could be summed up, I think, in the word turmoil.
I also
Chaos.
I do want to send out a
Okay, so we're going to pause it here for a minute and do a part 2 because I know how you guys don't like long videos, and this is long enough already. Alrighty, this is about the only one I even halfway trust to about any legalese. Wink, wink, right? So we're going to end it here, y'all. This is Decent We the People News.